still here.
Just wondering. Yeah.
We're just quiet, waiting for it to start.
Okay.
We're a minute over now.
We're in. We're live. Hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Alex, we can't hear you.
There we go. Now you can. Look at that first issue.
Hey.
How's it going, everyone? Hello, hello, hello. Rogue Dog, hello. All right. Okay. First stream back after quite a while. We're joined with a couple of new faces, a couple of faces that you've seen before. First off, Garrett. Everyone knows Garrett, our associate director. We are joined by George, our
Project manager.
project manager. There you go, George. Joe, our chief technical officer,
That's
and
right.
the reason we're all here, Yohami,
Only for a little bit. Hello, guys.
and myself. I'm Alex, community manager. Hello, everyone who's just joining. We're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to join. First off, you guys, how's everyone doing? Everyone feeling good today?
Yeah, feeling
Fantastic.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful.
It's a good
Yeah.
weekend.
great. Yeah.
It
We're
was a
just
long
off a
night.
really good play test this week. It's been good. Everything's happy.
Good, good. Okay, so I suppose no better time to jump into it. There's going to be some people jumping in and out, obviously. But let's get
Should
into
we
the reason.
should we fix
will.
names
I
since
will
they're
fix
hiding?
names as soon as I am
Okay.
not talking.
Right.
So the reason we're all here, obviously, to talk about where BulletVille's going, what's going on, what have we been doing, and what's happening next. So I suppose we'll take it over to Joe, if you want to talk about what's been going on, why the delay, and what we've been up to.
Sure. So it's been a while. I know that a lot of you are really wondering what we've been doing. I was brought on about a month and a half ago to start looking at how we transition BulletVille from its initial prototype phases into a commercial product that we could actually release. And there was a whole lot of tech debt going into here. So for those who don't understand what that means is the early development of BulletVille, we used a lot of asset packs. We used, content and code. We used contractors. So we had a lot of systems that didn't necessarily gel together really well. So Yohami made the decision that we wanted to take a step back and clean up all of the initial push rush that we did, and that's where we're sort of sitting at now. We've been rebuilding the core pillars. So for those that might not know, when you do a game, you have what are called pillars, and they are the aspects of the game that make up the very basic building blocks of what you're going to be doing. And our core pillars for BulletVille are the characters, the weapon systems, and the movement. So those are the three big things that make up BulletVille, the game. And so we had a lot of tech debt, especially in the movement and the weapon systems. And that's what we've been spending the last, year, trying to dig out of that tech debt. And we've made a lot of really good progress on it. On top of that, right in the middle of all this, Epic decided to release UE5, and we saw that as a really good opportunity to move not only to the latest and greatest platform, which makes sure that in terms of technical ability, we are at the top of the curve, but also UE5 has a number of features like Lumen, their new animation system, all of these things that really improve the experience overall. So moving to UE5 at this time seemed to make a really good sense.
Yeah, to add to that a little bit, we have been preparing for this for actually a lot longer than what you see on the surface. So we've we were originally in 422 in the last version of BulletVille that was playable for the public, for the Kickstarter backers, right? And we moved to 426 in preparation to make sure that we had a direct pipeline to UE5 as well. So 426 and 427 both have direct pipelines to Unreal Engine 5. So this was prepped knowing that we had a good chance of moving and we wanted to see the features as they started to develop. So a lot of changes has been made, a lot of preparation and planning there, but we're not seeing everything come to fruition until we get to UE5. So we're gonna show a lot of that stuff today.
Do we want to
And
start by
hopefully you guys can take a look.
Sure. Showing what was the case in UE4, what happened with movements, and talk about that, and then we can show off the new stuff that we've been working on.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. So why don't we talk about a little bit of movement? We have a video to show you what was wrong with the old movement system. So go ahead and cue that up.
Here we go.
And so what you're looking for, anywhere you see the after effects, that is a divergence between where the character actually is and where the server actually thinks they are. And as you can see, in the old movement system, it happened a lot, which means there's a lot of times where you're going to be shooting at a phantom object on your screen. And this was really problematic. There was a lot of reasons to it. It was part of it was tied to frame rate, part of it was time to network usage. So it really wasn't going to be effective in terms of creating a final game. So what we did is we took a step back. We got rid of all the asset packs, all of the temporary code, all the contractor code, and we started over scratch. And we built a movement system from the ground up, utilizing it's all native code, so it's all C++, utilizing the Epic systems that were already in there for the movement component, instead of having this sort of strung together set of features. And it's been really, really good. We've gotten rid of all this error that you're seeing here, and it's smooth, no longer frame rate dependent. It's a great way to go.
Yeah, we were having problems with it being locked to the frame rate, right? So if you played BulletVille in the past, you would probably notice that we had a cap at 60 hertz, right? And so what we've done is basically done this system to where we don't have this cap in place and we're not getting these errors. So it's a massive improvement, a massive jump. And
Yeah.
that's basically the investment we've spent the last year working on making sure it works right.
Right. And our goal is to, again, so movement is the number one pillar of the game. We're a parkour, class-based shooter. So you have to have really smooth movement. When you're jumping over and mantling over something, it has to feel smooth. When you're running up a wall or swinging on a grapple, it has to feel smooth. And one of the things that I immediately noticed when I started playtesting in the old movement code were the warping, the rubber banding, all of that was really prevalent. So by building our system from the ground up, not only do we have greater control of what's going on, but we are able to do optimizations that we just really weren't able to do before. So this was definitely an important change because, again, this is one of the biggest pillars of the game. If we don't have smooth movement, nobody's going to want to play. And I think we saw that beforehand, that it broke down a lot.
Yeah, I would add, like, pretty much in a nutshell, like, our move to UE5 is what helps us guarantee that BulletVille looks like a current gen game and not something that's like a last gen game, to put it simply. And that's like in terms of visuals, animations, lighting, and everything. Just the smoothness of everything.
Yeah. And along the same lines, this is the reason why we redid the weapon system. Again, so we had a weapon system that was really based off of a bunch of different little pieces of code that was cobbled together. So one of my first tasks when I got here was to evaluate it, and we basically ripped it all out and rewrote the whole thing from scratch in native C++. It's optimized for network play. It's optimized for dealing with high latency. It's a really robust system that we have total control over. So our number one goal in this initial phase of moving to UE5 is making sure our two of the three pillars, are really, really solid.
Do we want to think about jumping into UE5? Maybe have a look at some of what UE5 has to offer in other areas as well.
Sure. Let's jump into what we're seeing in the advantages of UE5.
Garrett, are you good on
Yeah,
screen sharing?
sure. We can take a look at some lighting system stuff.
Wonderful.
So one of the benefits to UE5 is, we gain Lumen right off the back, and the new lighting system in UE5 is really sweet. It removes a lot of the developer time in terms of lighting your maps. Everything is a lot more realistic. It's a lot better. And what we've prepped here is a video showing off UE4 lighting versus UE5 lighting in one of our scenarios. So I'll let Garrett take it over.
Sure. So this is right now we're taking a look at Unreal Engine 4, and this is our like Wild West showcase map. And I'm gonna try not to move around too much just to make sure the video quality stays good. But we wanted to show, how the lighting looks, and this is done by a professional lighting artist in 422 or 426 in this case. So they've sat here, they've spent a ton of time and effort making sure that this map looks beautiful. And you can see some of the things that are going on inside the scene. We have some reflection capture, we have the sun itself, like the directional light itself. And then we have a bunch of little point lights around the scene in different places to make sure that it, is lit really nicely and well. We hide these, and we want to see sort of what the limitation is here, right? So what we're doing to make it look this good is we're using baked lighting. And baked lighting basically means that we're cooking the lighting beforehand and we're shipping it to you with this predetermined, pre-baked lighting. So it's very static. It looks good, but it's not dynamic. It doesn't move with the environment. It doesn't change as things occur over time. And now, that's not to say that you can't do that, but if you want to achieve high quality, high visual fidelity, you sort of have to, right?
Yeah.
And if you take a look when I move an object, you'll see this light has been baked into a texture map. And this breaks the lighting whenever objects move, right? And you can't really interact with this space in the world because of this. So this is one of the big limitations, right? The nice thing about moving to UE5 is the Lumen system doesn't have this limitation. It's a global dynamic lighting, so this thing is active at all times. And if we switch over to that now, we can just take a quick look. So here's the system in Unreal Engine 5, and I'll take the light, and this is again a dynamic light, so we can control this in code and blueprint, and have the time of day adjust in real time during a match if we wanted, right? We can make these live adjustments, and the map could be going from a daytime scene to a nighttime scene, all dynamically while the match is going live.
And I think a thing that we don't want to dismiss is I think that UE5 also gives a lot better shadowing. Lumen, I mean, we can look at it if you go back to the light maps. You tend to get really kind of harsh shadowing, and in UE5 that all smooths out a lot, thanks to Lumen and the real-time lighting. Plus, we'll be able to have really cool effects. You know, rockets giving off glows in a much better way, and it'll feel much more realistic. And just the speed that we can light levels now is worth it alone.
Here's that same rock, and you can see the light map isn't baking, it's not preparing something that needs to be done ahead of time. We can do things live in the environment. This means objects can also move, not just the light itself.
And I mean, everybody remembers movers in Unreal always seem to kind of have janky lighting on them, and Lumen takes care of that. So if you have moving platforms, it's going to look really good now. And here's a good example of what I'm talking about with the shadows. If you look up at the top of the church here, you know, in Lumen, you've got nice soft shadows. You'd have so much bounce light in a situation like this that all those shadows up near the top there, you wouldn't get those harsh black shadows that you saw in UE4. Now we get really nice soft shadows, and it just brings the visual fidelity of the map that much higher. So you can see back in UE4, it's nice and they're harsher and darker.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the the lighting being live and dynamic. It takes the information from the environment and bounces it back in. So this rock over here being orange, like a orange, red, yellow sort of tint and hue, it's actually bringing this reflection in that color and reflecting it back in the environment. It's a little hard to tell in this scene because we're looking at brown and orange and yellow and those sorts of colors all in the same areas. So if we take a look at another environment, it'll be a bit more obvious and apparent. But if this wall was green, you would see that green reflection captured in the
Okay.
backlight of this building. And you just can't do that in Unreal Engine 4. So it's a huge part of why we're moving forward.
Mhm. And then
Um,
the next biggest feature of UE5 that I think is really going to pay off is the new animation system. Um, we're already starting to play around with it, bringing over our characters over to the new rig, defining our rigs, refining them as best as we can, and it's starting to look great. The one of the benefits that we're going to get out of this is being able to see better IK, better animation trees. The whole animation blending is so much better in UE5 that it's just such a huge deal. And when you have a system, we have a game that has a lot of different movement modes where you're going to be blending between actions at such a high frequency that I think that we're going to have a huge benefit having the new animation system in. So why don't we bring up a quick video of what the work that's being done there. So you
Sorry.
see, I'll let Garrett go into this.
sure. So this is a showcase showing off the new rig. You're seeing actually a different version of Hunter than you may be used to. This is an older model, an older mesh. We brought him back forward, um, and we've put the new rig system actually with the new skeletal structure that UE5 also came with. This allows us to sort of build on top of a system that's already nice and robust and supported by a lot of the things that Epic Games is already doing. And in the showcase, we're seeing a range of motion test. So this is showing how the character can sort of be moved and manipulated. Really nice quality to the rig and to the skinning itself. And of course, this is a process. It'll improve over time. We're just checking to make sure all of these sorts of things are working really nicely. The things that we want to control are controllable, and the things that look a little strange or a little off, we can make those adjustments and prepare for ahead of time. The new skeletal structure is really nice because it actually gives us significantly more control than the rig that we were using for Unreal Engine 4. Um, he's showing off a little bit of like the skinning that could use some improvement, but overall these tools are going to help us to where we can make these changes basically instantly, right? We can spend the time that we need to really clean things up. And as Joe mentioned at the start of the stream, this is, one of our core pillars, making sure the characters look great, making sure they're animated nicely, making sure that they have character and style. It's really important to making sure that a character game, a character shooter, a character driven experience is really nice. And players can connect with those people. So this is a huge part of that.
So maybe with all of this outside of Unreal, I know we showed us some work in Lumen. Maybe we should talk about what we've actually got inside the engine right now. What are we doing, and kind of how is it actually going at the moment with Unreal Engine 5?
Sure, we can jump to that. I also wanted to say that with the animation advances that we're getting, we also get really good IK in terms of foot placement, interactions with the world, holding your weapons. We also get there's a whole bunch of other advantages. Common UI is another great advantage of moving to UE5. As a smaller indie developer, we have to look for ways to optimize our workflows and optimize our staffing usage because we're not going to be we don't have 400 people working on a game, so we have to find ways to do it better and smarter, and UE5 just gives us a whole host of tools. I mean, the animation retargeting alone in UE5 is so much better than UE4. That's going to save us a huge amount of development cost and a huge amount of development time. So it's just been such a smart move moving to it. So yeah, let's go ahead and show where we are in UE5 now. I want to preface this by saying to everybody watching this, keep in mind we only started the switch to UE5 a month and a half ago. So you're not going to be seeing production ready anything yet. As you can see, the rig is just coming online now. The nice thing is we're spending all of this time in the beginning to make sure that our rig is solid so that as we bring other characters in, we don't have to spend nearly as much time. All of these steps as a small studio are super important to get right in the beginning because you don't have the staff or the time to get them right way down the line. That's why we're spending so much resources early on to get these things set in stone. So let's go ahead and why don't we bring up, we'll show off the current movement um, in UE5. So as you can see, here's Hunter. Now his animations are going to be broken and all over the place. Just ignore that. But you'll notice you're not seeing, we're not capping our frame rate. He's up at 100 plus frames a second, and we're not losing any, there are no errors going on. The new system is tight, completely written from scratch, and it feels really good moving around in the world. This is now going to allow us to start playing with these gameplay elements and figuring out how best to leverage them into the final game. How do we want wall running working? How do we want the grapple to work? How do we want grind rails to work? Um, and not have to worry about, okay, are we going to be glitching out? Are we going to be having problems down the line? So this has been such a huge boom to us moving forward in this direction. Another thing that we have been investing a lot of time is our infrastructure backend, and we're moving over to the Epic Online Services for handling our backend needs. And the importance of that is it's going to give us a completely cross-platform system for running all of our backend services. And you're going to be able to have accounts from Steam or Epic Store or Good Old Gamers, or we can even support Discord or Xbox Live or PSN, right? We can take all of these accounts and put them together and have them share data, share, entitlements, and it's going to be a real boon to what we're doing. As I said, we are planning on going multi-platform eventually. We've already been in contact with Nintendo and Microsoft, and we've been accepted into their indie programs. We're still talking with Sony and trying to work it out. But our goal is to be available in as many places as we can. So we want to be on, the PlayStation. We want to be on Xboxes. We want to be on a Switch or a Steam Deck or mobile eventually. And in order to do that and have cross-platform play, we really need a system like EOS. So we're investing a lot of time up front to get our online services as stable as the rest of the game so that we can have easy portability. The weapon system, why don't you bring up that video next?
Yeah.
Again, this is all very temporary, and we aren't at the content where we need to be yet, so forgive the animations. But so here we're looking at the animation system, and this is your typical case, somebody running by a doorway. And as you can see right now, my ping is 16, so you would expect that when I shoot somebody at 16 milliseconds, it's easy to hit them. And as you can see, you see the spark and a little bit of blood, and it's all really reactive. As soon as I pull the trigger, it hits him, and it's smooth. But you would expect it to be smooth at 16 milliseconds. But what about 250 milliseconds? So this is a quarter second lag that we're going to simulate right here. And normally you'd have to lead, but not anymore. Everything is, perfectly accurate, even at 250 milliseconds of lag time. There's no delay. It feels smooth. It feels like you're playing on your home network. Now, if you notice, there's two effects that are going on. You see a little flash from the impact, and you see a little blood effect. And the system is actually designed so that we can have effects happening on both sides of the pond. So as you see him shoot here, this is now a half-second delay. You'll see the impact effect hit him, and then a half second later you'll see the blood effect come off, and that's to let you know, yes, you're registering the hit locally, and yes, the server is authenticating the hit and saying, yep, that was a valid hit. So we have this great system in there that's going to support, insane latencies. In fact, I bumped it up here to a full second of lag, and again, no leading, no errors. We just hit it, and it feels so smooth. We're working on a system for projectiles in the world that's going to simulate and feel the exact same way. Our goal in movement and weapons is to make even high latency, high ping, high packet loss games feel as close to network as you can. And we're making a lot of strides in this area. So I feel really happy with where the movement code and where the weapon code is. I think we're going to be pretty solid on those aspects. So why don't we show off some new, the maps coming over and what we're talking about for mapping.
Sure, yeah, we can take a look. Can share my screen on that.
Or we can watch my bad video again.
All right.
There we go. I think we got it.
All right, nice. Okay, so this we're just gonna take a look again in Unreal Engine 5. And here we're taking a look at just one of the blockouts. One of the great things, just to show off a little bit again about Lumen, is it comes with this real-time reflection as well. So this out of the box, it already just works. It already does exactly the thing that you sort of want out of a really nice lighting system. Um, the cool thing
Like
about
I
this
think
is,
that was one of the biggest differences for me, right? Just when we started blocking out maps in UE5, it was like immediately visible how big of a change that was.
yeah, absolutely. So this change kind of extends into other areas too. So if we, for example, pull out this wall, start letting some lighting into this room, and it all does it nice and dynamically. And of course, it's like nice and moody in here. There's no other lights in the scene. This is only being lit by sort of the environment lights that are here. So we have basically six things, including a post-process effect. And these are all set to nearly default values. So no major systems have been done. And you can come in, spend less than 5 minutes, and already have really juicy looking lighting. That's the biggest sell.
Well, and
And
another big sell on that is think about maps that can become more dynamic, right? Before you had to do a lot of work if you wanted to have a door that opened up and light would stream in to, brighten up a light area. But now we could do that very easily without having to expend a whole lot of resources on it. So now we can have much more dynamic maps. You could have a lever, that brightens up an area and highlights where a sniper might be, or can shut down an area so you can't go through it. It's going to allow for a much more dynamic set of play. Maps won't be quite as static as they used to be.
and here I'm showing off again the dynamic lighting system. So this can be during a match, we can turn it. There's no other light in this level, as you can see. So we get to play with however we want this lighting to look, and it's going to look fantastic with minimal effort. So a lighting artist can come in here still and make this thing look absolutely amazing with little effort, right? That's really the big sell that's going on here. So here we just want to sort of showcase also all of the blockouts up and ready for work in UE5. And we're already starting art passes. They're just not ready to show just yet. So we can take a look at probably one more and then we can switch back. We'll take a look at this one. So here again, another map. The same of like 5 or 6 basic lighting assets. And we're immediately getting like quality results. We look at this in UE4. You're just going to have basic static lighting, and nothing is going to look detailed. The shadows aren't going to bounce. You're not getting the color reflecting into the scene in certain areas. Um, it's just nice to be able to switch to this and see everything sort of up and running in UE5 rather quickly. Um,
When we're talking about the dynamic lighting, do we have any emissive material, something like that we can show off for the reflections of how that is dynamic in materials as well?
yeah, of course. So I can just drop a cube into the world, and we'll scale it up a bit.
That would be a
And
sphere, by the way.
I'm sorry, a sphere, yes. All right. And then let's
Don't
just
mean to call
search
you out or anything.
for an emissive. You know, I don't have one in this project. I should have prepared one. I do not have one at the moment. So, I guess I can just make a quick thing. Let's see. Make a material.
Here, I'll answer some of the questions going on in the chat. Yeah, some of these are going to look like Quake 3 maps because they're blockouts, right? I mean, blockouts most remind me of early Quake 2 and Quake 3 maps when you look at them as blockout modes, because that's basically what you had back in the day. The real thing is, how do they play?
Yeah,
So,
sorry to comment on this. That map was actually based on Q24 from Quake. So it was one of my favorite maps. So I asked Garrett to make a version for us.
ah,
That's why it's closed. So yeah, good eye.
you know, I laugh because so if you looked really closely at the map in the weapon test video that I showed off, it's actually Doom Map 7, which is my all-time favorite deathmatch map. And whenever I do a test level like that, I almost always just remake Doom 2 Map 7. And that's where we played the first BulletVille network test last week. And we had a blast because, I mean, let's face it, I love this phase of software development. I love when you're, you know, early on and the weapons are just coming online and the movement's just coming online and you don't have all the effects yet, and every day is exciting because something new comes on. There are phases in the end of development where, you know, you're in a deathmatch test and you've seen this map 1,000 times, you've seen the weapon 1,000 times, and there's really nothing new, and it's still fun because the game's fun, but you know, there's nothing new in this early phase. Every day, oh look, here's a new movement. Here's, you know, Dennis brings grapple online and we get to play around with grapple. We're in the middle of the first play test of the weapons, and we realized that Stefan had left the ability system turned on, and so immediately here we are in this play test, and we're all suddenly triggering abilities and poisoning each other, and it's just so much organic fun, you know. And in that test we have the audio in now because we brought it over, but we didn't even have the audio. So I'm sitting here going pew 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 as I'm shooting people, and it's just it's such a grand time. But here, oh, we're showing off the emissive.
We are, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
So
so
like
I
one of
just
those moon lamps that you buy from the dollar store.
yeah,
exactly, yeah. So we got a little moon. We can actually throw this up in the sky and it'll actually emit real light. So this is again another great thing about UE5's lighting Lumen system is you have dynamic lighting. It's not just um, you know, a light source. It's an emissive as well. Anything that's emissive in a texture sample can be actually producing light in the engine, right? So this is, I mean, it's just a small example to see what you can sort of do with this.
but now imagine that as an object in a delivery style game mode, where as you're moving through the world, you know, you're in a night map and it's emitting the light that's around you that you can see. And so the heavy combat areas that are around that globe are well illuminated, but then the rest of them, you're basically playing flashlight tag. You could create so many cool new gameplay mechanics use once you can really have dynamic light that it's great, and I look forward to it. I know we don't plan on really getting into game modes for a little bit yet because we still have a lot of technical side, you know, the root core pillars to finish up. But once we do, I think we're going to create some really fun things. I know I used to love playing Dark Match back in UT, and I would love to have a flashlight tag sort of game. Imagine, again, a delivery game where you're delivering this glowing orb and your weapon has a flashlight on it. So it's got this really cool dynamic that if you're not around the orb, you're shooting it, you know, blanking lights in the darkness, and you can be given away by where your light is. The possibilities are endless. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's it is really exciting. It's one of the biggest features, of course, that pushed us towards UE5. Um, I guess that's it for my showcase here.
Have we showcased everything for sort of Unreal Engine 5 now? Have we managed to showcase everything that we've got? I think
I think so.
if we were to round it all up, we're working hard and it's going to yield some wonderful results. From what we've already shown off, Lumen is an incredible tool, or part of Unreal Engine 5, which is the tool that we're using. So I think that's really exciting. But the main question that I think everyone really wants to know, whether they're watching now or later, is when are they going to get to play it? So do we have anything that we can say about that?
We do. So, and I get it. I know that, a lot of the Kickstarter backers have been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm going to ask you to wait a little bit longer. Um, we obviously have a huge hill that we have to climb to get out of the tech debt that we were in. We've made really great strides in getting out of there. But as I said in the beginning, a game is made up of pillars. And our three core pillars are our weapon systems, our movement system, and our characters, right? And it's really critical that we get those three systems perfect before we start building out everything that goes on top of that. Because if you have something that's got a rotted core, it's just going to permeate through the whole game. So with that in mind, the next playable build that we're going to do, we're calling Network Test 1. And it's going to come in somewhere between mid-July and early August. And what it'll be is Hunter with probably two weapons and one blocked out DM map. Now I know everybody's going, oh my God, this is a step back. And it kind of is, but it's really important that we get, movement and weapons right. And so we're going to be asking all of our community and all of our fans to jump in with us and beat on these systems. We need to know that the weapon systems work. We need to know that, somebody who's playing across, from Europe to the US server or from US to Europe is going to have a good experience, and we need to get that done. So that's our next big, sort of milestone that we're pushing for. We're calling Network Test 1. And again, it's between mid-July and early August. As we get closer to mid-July, we'll narrow that date down to exactly what day people are going to be able to play it. And we feel really good about that. Our next step after Network Test 1 that we're planning on is Alpha Build 3. And Alpha Build 3, we're expecting to come late fourth quarter this year, um, probably somewhere in the November to December timeframe. And what that's going to be is many. So we're going to be bringing back on all of our heroes now that we have the animations, the animation system and the rigging all squared away. We'll be bringing heroes back over, bringing animations back over. So Alpha Test 3 will be as many heroes as we can get in at that point in time, as many weapons, as many uh, unmeshed maps, and then at least one meshed map. And this is sort of a guidepost that tells us how long does it take to bring characters in, how long does it take to bring the weapons online, how long does it take to bring abilities online using all the new systems, so that we can figure out a global how are we going to finish this game. So it's really critical. So Alpha Build 3 is in late fourth quarter 2023. Again, as many heroes as that we can get done in that, at least one fully meshed
22.
map.
22.
22, sorry. Fourth quarter 22. Yeah. Don't let me get ahead of myself. And we're looking at Alpha Build 3 as sort of our first real vertical slice under UE5, right? If you guys want to see
Absolutely. Yeah.
what BulletVille is going to be the game, you're going to see it in Alpha Build 3. Once Alpha Build 3 comes out, we're going to be looking at having, somewhat regular playtest back where we invite all of our backers and our community to come in and play the latest progress, give feedback on the latest progress. And that's going to take us into 2023, which is when we hope to be finally ready for open beta. We can't really give anything more clear than that simply because we're not 100% sure how long it's going to take to bring all the characters online. But that's the pretty much the time frames going forward. And we've discussed it internally, and we think those are really, really meetable dates under the current system. And understand that one of the reasons why we brought me on this project and we brought George onto this project is because we want to sort of move away from that uh, kind of loose development strategy of let's just build things and hope we eventually get a game to here's how you focus in and develop and how you get from point A, which is your rough prototype, to point B, which is your beta, to point C, which is your final release. And I think we have a really good plan going forward on that.
Yeah,
Just to just to reiterate the importance of movement, like we've mentioned movement system a few times, and in case some people are wondering what's the big deal, it's just a movement system. Um, what BulletVille is essentially, it's a parkour team hero shooter, right? So
Yeah.
we're aiming to have unique gameplay in the sense that there's a lot of time that people are going to be spending running all over the map, jumping, finding nice vantage points, maybe even aerial battle in some tight corners. Like the real focus here is to make this stand out as a parkour team hero shooter. So that's the importance of the movement system.
Right, and that goes
absolutely.
back to the idea of the core pillar, and movement is our number one pillar, and it's got to be perfect. So we are spending all of our resources right now, and that's why we're having network test one. And I'll be honest with you, network test one may lead to network test two, which may lead to network test three, all in that, as we run up to alpha build three, as we're trying to make sure that we get the movement system down. I mean, we might get feedback on network test one that says, yeah, but in high packet loss situations, sometimes my movement doesn't work. Well, we need to fix that and then have a network test two. And we are committed to getting that done, because if that pillar doesn't work, the whole game doesn't work. And I'll give you a really good example. When I was talking about coming online, we had a big play test on the old build, and I had never played the game before, and I got jumped into it, and I was able to just basically grapple all around the map. And because the grapple system was completely unbound and I could grapple anywhere, I was very hard to kill, even though I was terrible at the game at the point. And B, because of the old movement system and warping and having trouble, nobody could hit me anyway. And that's really critical. If we're going to have a game where you can vault over walls and climb up terraces and, grapple under, under arches, it has to be solid. Otherwise, the game's going to fail. And that's why we're spending this time on it.
Yeah, we stopped after the point of releasing the alpha to the Kickstarter guys, right? And just took a look to see what the product actually looked like at that time. And yeah, it's fun. The movement was fun, but the game wasn't working the way we intended, right? The game was not producing a quality shooting experience, right? It was producing a fun move around and see if people can't hit me experience. So, movement has to be balanced with gameplay. It has to be balanced with the abilities, has to be balanced with the shooting mechanics, right? I've said this probably 100 times in our personal Slack discussions, but it's not fun to shoot at Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
So we have to figure out how to make that fun. It's fun to be Spider-Man and it's fun to
Right.
fly around as Spider-Man, but we have to make sure that those systems are balanced with each other as well. So give us a pretty good perspective on what we were doing. And as gameplay starts to come online, as abilities come online, as characters come online, we get to define the game. We get to define what the game sort of looks like. And we've had, so much discussions internally. We've seen what the community also enjoys, what they prefer, what really gets them excited about the game. So we're using all these things as perspective, and of course we have a pulse on the industry as well, right? We're paying attention to the other games that are out there. We're understanding of what players are looking for, and we're just trying to bring our experience, what BulletVille is, uh, to the audience, right? To you guys. So really important that we get these sort of things right, um, and get it into your hands so that you guys can start getting us some feedback, and we can share the experience together. We can grow together. That's the point of having an early look, an early hands-on with these sorts of builds, is so that you guys get to be involved in these things as well.
And from my point of view, I mean, we're a small indie developer. We don't have, a 30-person QA department. Our fans have to be, involved in this process. We need to get them involved early and playing early, and that's the reason why I want a public network test. I want to get to Alpha 3 as quickly as possible. I want, play tests seep through there where we're bringing them in every couple of weeks to try out new things, because not only do we get really great feedback on the direction and how something feels, but we're also going to generate far more bugs, when we have a far larger pool of people. When I was working on UT Alpha, one of the best things that we ever did was, when we opened it up to the community, every month we release a new build and we just get tons of feedback and tons of bug reports that really help define the development process. And I think it's going to be great here. Why don't we answer a couple of questions that people asked?
Yeah, we can jump to
Uh,
some
let's
questions.
clarify just before we move off. Let's just clarify again one more time, like the timelines on this roadmap.
Sure,
Just as a quick recap.
sure. Just
So
to quickly recap, Network Test 1 is mid-July to early August. Um, when we get a little closer, we'll announce the exact date it's going to be available. But that'll be a simple deathmatch version where we're just testing out the weapon system. So you'll probably have one instant hit, one projectile weapon, one character, maybe some abilities. We'll see, and it's just going to be testing out those systems. Then Alpha Build 3 is late fourth quarter 2022. That'll be a more vertical slice, more characters, actual meshed maps, the abilities, and then we're really shooting for going with an open beta in first half of 2023.
yeah, so if you've signed up for the beta in the past, we're gonna pull from that pool. Of course, if you're a backer, we're gonna get you in as well. But that's sort of the structure, right? We want to make sure that people can get in, and we'll talk a bit more in the future about how other people get access. Likely, we'll want to do something where we can have you invite your friends, right? So
Mhm.
that's the goal. And how that comes online, we'll have to learn a bit more in the process and then share that with you in the future. But for the alpha build 3 and for the network test 1, these are going to be closed, right? These are going to be only for backers, or for people that are VIP, right? Someone that maybe they're part of the Discord staff, or um, people that we know personally, or investors or things like that. So we want to keep it a small, uh, closed off system because this isn't meant for everyone, right? This isn't
Yeah.
polished gameplay where you're going to have the time of your life. This is something where serious people want to get their hands on early and be a part of that sort of building process.
Hmm.
We'll make sure all of these dates as well are all on our socials, and you'll be able to have them. So you won't be forgetting when these tests are going to be taking place. So we'll make sure everyone is involved when something is happening. So an exciting time for the second half of 2022. Um, so moving on to maybe the question portion of our stream, we've gone over on time on what I'd expected. So hopefully we can get through some of these questions. For people in chat who have either just joined or have been with us for a while, if you ask a load of questions now, any questions you have about BulletVille, whether it's what we've spoken about in the stream now, whether it's something that you're just curious about, then ask those in the chat and we'll get around to them. But we're going to answer some questions that were asked by some of our people over on Kickstarter and insiders on Discord. So I guess to start off would be an overview of what we've spoken about. Big Moth was asking about, with our change to Unreal Engine 5, what were the deciding factors that made us change? So, Joe, maybe just touch on what the key points were for that.
Well, I think the number one biggest point is we don't want to be on that much older technology. We need to be on the top of the tech curve moving forward. So we need to keep up with where Epic and Unreal Engine is going. On top of that, we get a lot of benefits. We get Lumen, so we get great lighting. We get easier access to the EOS, so we get a great back end. We get common core controls for UI, right? Epic has built out a new system for doing common UI, and it's great. So we're going to be able to pick that up, makes doing setting menus and those sort of things easier. Um, we get the new animation pipeline. We're really excited about this, especially at the retargeting phase. That's going to be a huge gain for us. And then we just get quality of life changes that, a new engine is going to bring. We're going to be on top of the technology curve, which is very important.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much in a nutshell, Bulletville is kind of a fresh take on team shooters, and we want the whole overall experience to feel and look like it's a fresh game too.
Right.
Yeah, and those benefits that we're getting from the engine, they're particularly useful for smaller teams, right? Like, of course, if you have a massive 500-man team, you're going to benefit from quality tools, but so does a small team, right? Like we see the advancement in the time that we spend going, a couple steps backwards to make sure that we have our our planning and ducks in a row, and we work in UE5. We kind of take those steps back just to prepare for that, but we end up accelerating so much in the future. Our pipelines end up being so much better for the future. We spend a little time now and we gain it back tenfold in the future. That's the goal here.
Yeah, and to really harp on that, I mean, if we can save, light a level in half the time, that's an extra map or two that we can build, right? And that's really important. So, as a small developer, we need those quality improvements. And remember, the PS5, the Xbox X, they're all mid generation now, right? They've been out for several years. We need to start thinking about that there's going to be a new console rev coming down the line. There's going to be new PC hardware coming down the line. There's going to be new mobile hardware coming down the line. If we're not on the top of that technology curve, is the farther we get from that, the harder it's going to be to keep up.
Yeah, the last thing I guess we can add is it's also exciting, right?
Yeah,
Everybody wants to be on the new technology. Even the fans want us to be on the new
yeah.
technology, right? They want to see us being able to utilize all these new tools. And it's always a feels bad moment when you're still in production, a new engine version comes out, and you're like, oh, there goes all the things we could have had, right? So we
Yeah.
don't want to have regrets. We want to be able to take advantage of it.
I think our showcase has really brought home those tools and wanting to be on that latest tech as well. So, yeah, really good. Um, okay, so next question. We've got Soldier has asked a couple of questions. Um, what forms of monetization are we looking at for the game? Will there be a free to play or will there have built in costs? What's I mean, this is a question that we've seen asked around, I think, quite a few times on our social medias. So, what do we have that we could address that?
Um,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
okay, I'll take it just for a little bit. So we've talked about obviously launching this game through the Kickstarter, right? The Kickstarter shows the price of the game is $30. Um, for Kickstarter backers, you were able to get the game for 15, right? Like that was the Kickstarter goal in when it was released a year ago. But we've always talked about the potential for moving this game to free to play, right? If we want a big audience, free to play is the way to do it, right? But there's trade-offs there. There's advantages and disadvantages that we're thinking about, we're talking about internally. And one of the biggest is cheaters, right? People that get their hands on the game for free, they're much more likely to be able to cheat, right? And there's not as big of consequences. There's no financial uh, hit that they have to take in order to make a new account, buy the game again, and get back into it to make a mess, right? So there's pros and cons to some of this. The main thing that we need to do for monetization is to make sure that the game can survive, right? So we want to do things that can make the game survive and make the community happy and sell you guys things, or be be able to offer things that you guys want to purchase, right? And this can keep the game alive.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is no matter what we do, keep in mind we're not going to build pay to play, right? That I think the entire team is like hard fast on is any type of
Yeah.
monetization that we introduce will be cosmetic or outside the realm of the actual game. And again, we aren't there yet. We don't quite know exactly where we're going on this phase, but we have a lot of time to figure that out. And I'm sure over the next few months, we'll be trying to figure out what our monetization schedule is. Right now, our main concern is create a fun game, right? Because if we don't have a fun game, all the monetization in the world is pointless. So, from our point of view as the development team, we are solely focused on creating something that is new, fresh, never done before, and fun. So we'll get there.
Cool, wonderful. Um, okay, so our next question leads on from sort of the monetization, maybe not of the game itself, but perhaps talking about cosmetics. Um, what are the levels of customization that the players are going to have for the question asks for each piece. I'm assuming we're talking about each individual hero. Will there be items of clothing that we can customize? Just what extent of customization do we have planned? Garrett, maybe you could explain.
For the characters. Yeah. So we've talked about doing character customization in the past. It's still not out of realms of possibility, but it's not the current state of the project, right? It's not the current goal. The current goal is just getting these things sort of working, getting a clean system in place, getting the characters functional, and getting a skin system that sort of works. So we're still in the production here. Don't have anything exactly to really lean on and confirm exactly at the moment.
A follow-up to that talks about team-based colors. Will characters change based on what team they're on? At the moment, we showcase red and blue. Anything on that?
No answer for that. It
Yeah.
hasn't been decided. Yeah.
And let me forward
Yeah,
that. The
we
most
don't know.
important thing about the look and feel in teams is that we need a good, solid way to very quickly allow a player to determine my team or not my team, and that is going to drive that entire question. As long as we can, we will solve that first before we worry about, can you change the color of your coat, because it's far more important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so our next question moves on to secret mechanics. With moving into UE5, are we going to be adding any secret mechanics to the game, or do we know if there will be any unintended mechanics? I suppose, like with all games, we never know how players are going to use the different mechanics that we put into the game, and some people might surprise us. But Joe, are you going to be adding anything secret in there? Any instant buttons?
Well, okay,
Yes.
so there's two sides of this. Are we going to have undocumented gameplay features that we don't talk about? The answer there is maybe. I don't know. Um, but I think what he's really getting to there is we're going to a new engine. Nobody knows at this point in time. Like when you think about UE4 or UE3, you know exactly how the movement system interacts with the physics system, interacts with, projectile system. You know all these things, right? There was a time when you didn't. That's where we got rocket jumping. That's where we got strafe dodging. That's where we got slope dodging in UT. Those were unexpected interactions with the various gameplay systems that led to actual gameplay mechanics that were embraced by the community. And so I think that's what he's asking here in this question. And the answer is uh, we don't know. You have to take each one of those as they come up. If it adds something to the game, sure, we'll leave it in. I mean, rocket jumping added something to the game. Slope dodging added something to the game. Strafe jumping in Quake added something to Quake that Quake players love, right? You notice I say Quake players. I didn't like that aspect of it. But will we leave that in the game? Again, we'll judge that as it comes. I'm not afraid to take something out of the game that breaks the game. But if somebody finds an unintended physics interaction that makes it all that much more fun, then yeah, embrace it.
Absolutely agree. Uh, you don't want to delete fun, right? Like if people are
Yeah,
enjoying it, if it's not ruining the experience of others, if it's something that's not breaking the balance of the game, that we don't have intentions to make stuff unfun because the
yeah,
players found something we didn't intend. Like that's part of the fun of making a game is to see what players can come up with. We have
absolutely.
people on our team that have built other games, and they've been surprised by the community as well, right? You don't want to remove those aspects. That's a part of it, right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
I don't know if we're gonna hide any instant kill buttons for Joe though. We'll have to
No,
see
we're
about
not.
that.
I took great pains to make sure you couldn't insta kill people.
Um,
Okay, well maybe it'll just be Hunter being OP again. We'll see.
Maybe a question, Yohami, you could answer. How much do we expect to expand the character cast by? Are there any limits, or is the sky the limit? We're going to have 40, 50 different heroes in 3 years' time.
Garrett can answer that one. He knows the cast better than I do at this point.
So right now we have the original cast of 8, right? This is um, the 8 that you guys have all seen for quite some time now. But we also have another 6 in production. So that just means that they're somewhere in the pipeline, right? We have voice actors for all of these people. This is about 14 characters. We also have two announcers. We have Tarvos and Dagny. Dagny's a new addition. Um, she's going to be more of a traditional announcer for the game. So we've already got all of her voice lines recorded, and we're just preparing those. So we'll have a really robust system that kind of keeps the player informed on what's going on. And Tarvos is more of that cheeky person that's going to, uh, yell some sarcastic lines at you, right? So yeah, that's about the production right now. We have 14 in the pipe, eight core, eight of those are core, and then two announcers. We have a ton of extra characters that have already either had lore created or they've had concept art, or maybe they've even had first pass like 3D art built. Um, but they're really not ready to share anything about. Like these are people that, there's no guarantee that they'll even make the game, right? So we'll have a lot of work to do. But these 14, we have designed character kits. We've designed pretty much everything to start production. They just we're working on them in a key order to make sure that they go out in time.
And yeah, it gets tricky. Once you start approaching a whole lot of characters, balancing the characters against each other um, becomes very problematic. So at some point in time, we have to ask: is it better to add characters at a slower rate, but add variants of characters at a higher rate? And those are questions that we're going to start asking sometime after we get to beta, right? Because then we'll have an idea of where we can go. Um, so we don't know. I don't think that we have like set a hard limit, and I don't think we ever would, right? If somebody comes up with an idea for a character that is awesome, we're gonna add them. I mean, we like fun.
Yeah, there's the potential for a lot of stuff, right? So I wouldn't say any cap, any character cap. I mean, if you look at some other games out there, League of Legends has almost 150 characters after 10 years. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's where we're gonna get. Maybe that's a bit ambitious to start, but if we can round out a nice solid cast, it gives players more choice, more options, and that's really a big part of what a hero shooter is.
Hmm.
So
Cool, brilliant. Um, okay, moving on to our next question. Competitive
We will
and
have to jump though, guys.
ah,
Unfortunately, the
All
time I
right.
have.
no worries, George.
All right.
thanks, George.
Thanks for
Thanks,
joining
George.
us.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Uh oh. Oh no, he's still. Ah, there you go.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
Oh no. There we go.
That's a bit better. Okay. Technical. Okay, so moving on to our next questions then. The next ones talk about competitive and esports modes. Will there be any plans for these after release, and does it depend on things like player turnouts?
Um, so I would love for BulletVille to become a competitive esport game and have esports leagues, but we need a large user base and a large turnout for that to happen because I don't believe, and this is personal beliefs, I don't believe that you can design a game to be an esports hit. I believe you have to design a fun game that people want to play. And then if people continue to play it and you're fun, the competitive aspect, the esports leagues, all of that will come around you by its own and its own grassroots level. And that I think builds a safer game. So I don't want to say that we are building a game for competitive or esports play to begin with. I want to build a fun game. I think we all want to build a fun game. I want to build a competitive fun game. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. So the answer to this question is yes, I would love for there to be a competitive, community and a competitive esports league, but I'm not going to say that I can, magically sprinkle some dust on the game and get us there. I want to sprinkle dust on the game and get a fun game. And that's going to be above all else, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I come from a pretty competitive background. I've been following esports for quite some time since the days of Halo, right? So I come from that sort of background in doing level design for competitive modes and things like that. So I've been following these things for a long time. I would love for this to be a competitive game. Um, a competitive esport would be amazing, but it has to, like Joe said, it has to be community driven. If we build a game and there's no community that wants to compete, then we can't be an esport. It's sort of like, they kind of go together. You have to have both, right? So
Yeah,
we we wouldn't hamper it if it were to start growing, and maybe we can do some things to start making it grow. But yeah, it's kind of hand in hand.
I think it's one of
yeah.
those things that are really exciting to think about, but requires it's not something that we aim for in that sort of we're making it to be an esports game, right?
To me, it comes down to we don't have, we're a small indie. We don't have millions upon millions of dollars to jumpstart an esports league, right? So to me, the way to get there is to build something that people want to play. And if people want to play it and people play it, the esports side will come. And yeah, I'm totally open that once we release, if there's something that we can do to help foster and build that community, absolutely. We jump in there 100%. If we have to create a competitive mode or a competitive version of the game types that fit what they want to play, absolutely. Let's support them 100%. We're a small team, but we need to give them the support they need or help get the community the support they need. But it all starts with let's create a fun game.
Yeah, 100%. Um, okay, so moving on to the next one, we've got talk about inside a community being able to recommend content creators for now and to reach out for sponsored promotional content. With regards to content creators, at Now, we already have a few content creators that have been streaming in the past and have made video content. Um, we're still gonna have content creators. They're a big part of any game community. Whether insiders will be able to recommend, sure, if there are content creators that make content or that you really enjoy that might fit, then we're not going to say no and block these people out. But whether it will be sort of on a recommend and we do it basis, I'm not sure it'll be in that way. But there will be, as we move forwards towards alpha and next year, we'll look into content creators and onboarding and stuff like that.
Yeah, Alex is your guy. If you need content, if you're a content creator and you want to reach out and be like a part of it, he's your guy to reach out to. So just reach out to him either on Discord or Twitter or something like that.
Why don't we take these next two questions together because they're kind of together, right?
Progression systems in BulletVille. Um, yeah, I
And
think
and challenge based
challenge-based
unlocks.
unlocks. Yeah, so will there be any challenge-based unlocks for getting skins or achieving certain feats in, if you maybe kill 100 people? I think is the example, and then that moves on to the progression system. Yeah.
Right. So we're too early to tell exactly what our progression system is or what will have challenges, if any. I love them, and I think that they help keep people playing the game. I have other ideas that are in the same vein to help people want to come back and play every day. Play the new builds, play each individual seasons. So I have a lot of ideas. I'm sure Garrett has a lot of ideas in there. The answer is yes, we're going to have some of that. Exactly what we're going to have, we don't know. We're too early. Let us get past, get closer to alpha 3, and then we'll be able to give you a better idea of where the progression system and what type of features like that we're going to have. Right now, I'm more focused on making sure that I can shoot a pistol at 250 milliseconds of latency and it hits where I'm shooting at. But we're going to get there. So yes, we're going to have features like that, just we don't know what.
So another question that comes up is any plans to add any new mechanics to the game for future shakeups? So I suppose we've got things like capture the flag or team deathmatch. Are there going to be any surprise ones that might just get thrown in there to shape up and be different from our typical game modes?
That question is kind of two part. It's like asking about mechanics and then also asking about game modes. Game modes are important. They're going to be what sort of drives the fun from week to week, right? So we've talked about rotating game modes. We're going to constantly be tinkering and trying new things, right? We want to see internally what's going to work. So that's always going to be something that we do. As far as new mechanics, we've talked about new mechanics. We've talked about things that we haven't shown yet. Everything's theory at the moment, right? We've talked about potentially adding, I don't know, a zip line, but it has to make sense, right? So all these things are just theory at the moment. They're just things that we want to do or we're talking about doing. But as far as actually building them, it's just not, we're not ready to talk about much more.
And this question really harkens back to why the pillars are so important, right? Movement, weapons, classes, they all have such an impact on the game modes and where we're going to go in the future. I'll give you a great example. CTF is a great game mode, but what happens when everybody can, the fly carrier can climb up walls and hide anywhere and swing away on a grapple hook, right? That has huge impacts on the game modes that are, and how they play. And so once we get our pillars to where they need to be, then we're going to start looking at, okay, given all these different gameplay elements, how do they interact with each other, and how do we are they fun? Are they fun with our movement? Are they fun with our weapons? And if they're not, how do we make them fun? Or do we change them, or do we do something different? So the game modes are going to come organically from the pillars and be supported by the pillars. That's why this early phase is so important.
Yeah, I think that makes it clear. Um, we've got two questions from Adham and Xstorm. I'm going to sort of barrel them together. The first one is, when will the game be released on PS4? I think this has been a very common question that we've been asked. And then to roll that into the next one is, when will it be released on PC? I think these are our most commonly asked questions that we get. So what can we say to those people?
Everybody needs to understand, and I want to be really, really clear. We are a PC first title, right? We are building this game on a Windows PC. We are building it around mouse and keyboard. That is our first destination. However, in order to be a successful game, without a doubt, we need to be multi platform. We need to be on consoles. We need to be on mobile. In order to get the user base that's playing enough, we need a lot of places to play. So, yes, we're going to be coming to consoles. Will it be the PS4? I don't know yet. We'd love to be on every platform. We'd love to be on the PS5, the PS4. I doubt we could get on the PS3 at this point. I don't think you can even get the hardware for it anymore. But we'd love to be everywhere we can. So, if you have a favorite gaming platform, know that we probably want to be on there, but we're going to start on the PC. And then as we get closer to, that in between phase between Alpha 3 and when we're going to beta, we'll start really trying to hone in our multi platform support. Where are we going to go? How are we going to get there? How are we going to interact with each other? How are the platforms going to interact? There's a lot to consider once you start moving in that direction. So, sum up, PC first, consoles relatively soon after. We need them all, and I'm a big fan of everything. I have a PC, I have a Switch, I have a Steam Deck, I have both a PS5, a PS4, I have an Xbox One, I have an Xbox X, right? So I play on all the platforms. I want to be on all the platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. The the thing we don't want to do is silo off, right? We don't want to make sure that it's only a PC experience. We want to make sure it's fun on these platforms too. But there's a performance cost to going back to previous gen consoles, right? We're using new gen technology, and this lighting system is not cheap, right? A lot of the tools that we're using are not cheap. So we will come down to most likely this being a technical call in the end, but maybe we can get past it. Maybe it's something that's not as big of a hurdle. We just can't say for sure just yet. But there's a huge market, of course, for last gen consoles. There's hundreds of millions of these things out there. Of course, we want to be able to support them and get on those platforms. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, can we? Does it make sense? Does it work? The only game that's using Unreal Engine 5 right now on those consoles is Fortnite, and they have them. They have more money than God, right?
Well,
So
bigger thing is they have development staff that's 100 times larger than us, right? And that's
exactly.
what you really need to get down there. I think across the board, we all want to be on every platform known to man. I know Yohami really wants to be on mobile. I really want to be on mobile. Can we ever get on mobile? Well, we'll see. Let's see as we get there.
Yeah, we also talked about Mac support, which is something we haven't mentioned yet, but we have to see if that's possible too, what it looks like, how the technical challenges come. So yeah, a lot of those questions just don't have a perfect answer for at the moment.
At the end of the day, we want to aim to have as many people playing BulletVille as possible. So that's our goal,
Absolutely.
and we'll do our best within our power to actually achieve that.
If
Absolutely.
we could get it on a smart fridge, that would be
That would be peak.
the end goal,
On
right?
an
Peak
oscilloscope
peak
somewhere.
bulletful.
Okay. eMentor has asked about laws. Will there be laws for each of our characters? We already have on our website for those who have been over there. We do have sort of a background overview of each of our characters, sort of who they are, why they're on New Montana, why they're in the universe of BulletVille. I don't know, Garrett. Maybe you can elaborate on um, where or what more lore there might be, what could we do, what might there be, anything.
Yeah, so if you want to see lore about the first cast of 8 characters, you can see that on our website. It's Noah, actually bulletville.com, but Noah.com will take you also to the website if you wanted to take a look. So that'll get you a pretty brief background on the first cast of 8 characters. All characters will have history and lore. In fact, this is all developed before we even cast the character, right? We want to know who is this character we're casting. It's really important to the process to making sure that these characters feel real. And we have a great character writer for this sort of stuff. Mr. Reese, shout out to you. So, yeah, definitely there's lore. You're also going to have voice lines uh, by each character in the game. And these voice lines are going to talk about things in the lore, right? They're not super ham-fisted or anything like that, but you'll get a good taste of what a character's about just by hearing them. So it's super important. And then, who knows what we do in the future. We want to make sure that people get attached to these characters.
I think
Yeah.
someone posted about having an anime with the lore. It seems to be the theme in games at the moment to
It
create
does, yeah.
series, so who knows?
We need,
Hopefully
yeah,
Netflix will call.
yeah, we'll see about that.
It meant to also ask if one of the characters are overpowered, what would you do if there is no option to nerf them?
There's
Um,
always an option to nerf them. Um,
Trust.
Understand gameplay, balance, and fun are the most important things here. So if we have a character who's breaking the game because he's overpowered and he's not fun for 90% of the people in the game, then we're going to nerf him. I wouldn't take anything off the table. I don't start with the option of nerfing. I start with, okay, well, why is he breaking it? Why isn't he fun? Is there a way we can keep the fun aspect? Because let's face it, overpowered characters are fun to play, right? It's fun to jump in there and wipe the floor with everybody, right? So you have to ask, is there a good way to balance him back with the rest of the characters? Um, but no, I won't take anything off the table. I would never have a no nerfing option, right? Does
Yeah, I
that mean
think,
we might have to have something different for competitive play? Sure. You know, to use Fortnite as an example, competitive Fortnite is different than Fortnite. So I'm fine with that. But every option's on the table when it comes to making gameplay feel right.
yeah, there's some scenarios. I think the question is kind of leading towards like a mechanic that maybe one character has that's just clearly busted.
Hmm.
Um, if you think about this genre, the sniper rifle has been really one of those types of weapons, a type of railgun one hit sort of weapon, right? So in cases like that, there are still tools to make sure that that falls in line. It's still ways to balance, right? It may come with a cost, right? But that's the trade-off here, right? You can't have a super strong thing without having something, some sort of a weakness to balance it off with. So.
Yep. You want to jump some questions from our viewers?
we can grab some questions from the viewers. I think before we do that, I just want to sort of use Doc Hyde's question, which is just after PC is released, when does console get it, and maybe just use that as a. Can we just reiterate on what we've got in 2022? Just key dates, key information as a roundup for these questions.
Sure, I'll go back to it. Remember, somewhere mid-July to early August is going to be network test one. Alpha test three is going to be fourth quarter 2022. I suspect somewhere November to December timeframe. And then we're looking at somewhere the first half of 2022 as the open beta. So where does consoles fall into that? We're not going to start thinking about consoles in a real way until after Alpha Test 3. We just can't. We're too small. We consoles will generally require us to have a developer on site who does nothing but works on consoles. So we'll start thinking about that then. I don't know exactly when they would start coming online. It may be, from my point of view, the earlier the better, right? I would like to get them online somewhere in that beta test period, but I don't know if that's actually possible. So we'll have to determine at the end of this year where consoles are going to be.
Cool. I think that's a good sum up of everything. So that's all our pre asked questions that we collected before the stream. For everyone that's here now, if you have questions, if there's things that you want to know that you're still itching to know or hasn't been answered, or maybe we've said something in the stream so far that you want to know more about, then now's the time. Ask those questions. I mean, I think I've seen a few comments about some funny ones about having on a console on a Wii. If we're aiming for all consoles, let's get it on the Wii and use nunchucks.
Ooh,
Um,
that would be awesome.
I think that
We'll
would
have to
be
Um,
do
quite fun.
a PS1 demake of this thing at some point. I think that's gonna have to be the goal.
Certainly.
yeah, I would go VR before I went with the Wii. I think you could create an interesting VR experience out of this sort of a mixture between Gorilla Tag meets Population One meets contractors in VR. But and that's not to say we have plans on going to VR. I'm just talking off the cuff. But I think I would do that before the Wii.
I
We'll
think
have to see how sick people get in third person doing all these locomotions.
I don't think it would be the best enjoyable experience.
No, Gorilla
Have
Tag's kind of fun.
um, Mind Blue has commented on when we were talking about nerfing characters, and saying that if we have a character that does insane amounts of damage but can get sort of one hit by another character, are we going to have heroes that are like that? Are you going to be able to one shot a hero, but it could also one shot you? Are we going to have heroes like that, or are we going to try and make sure that you can take a hit and give some back?
I mean, that's kind of the definition of like what a hyper carry is, right? Someone that's super powerful and that you want to focus all of your attention on. Um, I don't think we're gonna aim it in that far of a direction, but you never know, right? There could be some like ultra glass cannon character, but that's gonna shift meta, right? So you have to be really careful when you do really outside the box things like that.
Um, Mine's also asked about fluorescent skins. Are we going to have skins for characters?
Yes, very likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, part of the monetization scheme, and again, we haven't really laid out our monetization scheme yet because we don't know what it is. But in a hero shooter, typically it will be variants in some fashion, whether it is attachment variants or actual character variants, right? Because it's very hard to have a fully configurable character because when you start painting, adding hats and doing other things to Hunter, is he Hunter anymore? And you start to lose the character that Hunter is. So, yes, I imagine we're going to have variants to the skin. I would hope that we don't have any super bright emissive variants or absolutely black and hide in the shadow variants, right? But I would like to see, variants that make sense.
Yeah, it's very easy to quickly get out of hand when you start customizing an entire character.
Yeah.
The visuals sort of go immediately out the window. But it depends. We still haven't made final decisions in these areas yet. Uh, I know Miniville also asked about he wants a rainbow track skin. He's wanted one for years now.
Their
We
comment
may have to
followed up
get him one.
with the dynamic lighting system having it fluorescent. So that would
Yeah,
be an interesting
an
combination.
emissive rainbow. That would
Yeah.
be quite a thing to see.
I could
Yeah, I mean
see a
you'll never
character.
be able to hide in tag.
Well, but I could also see a character wearing, rainbow colors or, rainbow stripes on something, or merging it into the character in some fashion. We absolutely could do that. But again, hopefully in the end, all of our content like this will be gated by gameplay, right? Gameplay has to be above all else. So when we have multiple skins, you can be sure that we're going to be testing them and trying to make sure that they're not conveying an advantage to play one character skin over another character skin.
Yeah, that is a thing
Yep.
that happens in other games, so we have to be careful.
Scroll's talking about lore cinematics for characters. So Apex and Overwatch has cinematics. I think we're a small team.
Allow me to
We
point out that Apex has, probably a team bigger than our team working on those cinematics.
Yeah, and
Uh,
just the cinematics alone.
I think it would be really nice to say though that we have amazing people that are doing rigging and animation, and from what we've shown already, those rigs and the animations that we can create are of a really high quality.
yeah.
So in theory, maybe we could, but we don't have the actual team at the moment to be making, as Joe says, there are teams dedicated to that,
Right,
and
and
we
I would
certainly don't.
prefer our artists and animators are making sure that the transition between, grinding a rail and doing a double jump glide is smooth versus can we get a lore animation. That said, I'm totally open for the community building lore animations and, movies. And if as we get closer to release, we can find a way to support that to make it happen, I'm all for it. But internally, at least in
Yeah.
the beginning, no, I don't see us creating extended cut sequences to explain the lore of every character. We just
W-
don't have that team size.
We've talked about doing animations like this, right? Cinematic style animations. But that may just be in 2D, right? It may be something that we reach out with an external company that partners with us to do something like this. But all
Comic
that stuff
books,
is exactly a comic style. That
yeah.
totally is feasible, but it's just not something that we can say yes or no, right? We would love to do it, and we've talked about doing it. It's just can we? This is limitations of the small team.
Scroll also asks, in terms of collabs and partnerships, what are we looking for in the game? I'm actually going to hopefully ask that he will respond to this, or they will respond to this, in the fact that Fortnite, as an example, they do collaborations with whatever's big at the time, so maybe something like Star Wars or Stranger Things and bring characters in that way. Is that what you're asking? And so when you respond and clarify, until then, Dyer asks, are there any planned for minigame style modes? So rotational playlists of minigames perhaps planned maybe for quick games, maybe 3 5 minute
We're,
matches, that
we're
sort of thing.
putting together a whole lot of different game modes to begin with so that we can start looking at how our core mechanics affect various gameplay mechanics in various game modes. From there, I'm sure we'll have a whole lot of content to build on, but it's too early to tell exactly what we're going to have in terms of game modes and playlists. Um, we're gonna have fun, and that's our number one goal. But it's too early to tell. Let's revisit this question as we get closer to Alpha Test One or Alpha Test Three. Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like we, no matter
I
what, we
wasn't
have
trying
to
to
test new
say
modes, right?
that. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like we have to test new modes and new mechanics and these things anyways. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to get smaller, like bite-sized tastes of that to the community, and maybe we'll have like some public beta environment where we can test these sort of things as well. So we'll have to think about this a little bit more, and we can share any plans in the future.
I mean, a great example is, I mean, really, do you think a game that's all about, parkour movement isn't going to have a bunny tracks mode? I think it's safe to say, well, at some point in time, somebody will code up a bunny tracks for us. So probably, but we don't know yet.
It'll be fun to see what we can do.
Yeah.
Um, so I suppose Scroll hasn't been able to get back. So do we have any plans on collaboration of any form with BulletVille? Is there anything? Um, I
Well,
think
I
we're
would
too
love
far
to.
away to pinpoint anything.
Yeah.
But um,
Partnerships come with
User
you know,
base.
user base. Yeah, you have to have something in return, right? It's a shared experience. So whatever we have needs to promote what they have. It's kind of like a give and take. It's a shared relationship. So those sort of come when the game is doing well, it's doing successful and stuff, and the community is enjoying it, and the money's there, and the these partners see the opportunity in using the game as something where they can showcase their platform as well. So yeah,
Right.
we would love to.
These only come really from two angles. Whether if we're big enough and popular enough, companies will want to collab with us because there's value to them doing that. The other option is you can spend money and buy that kind of approach, and I don't think that we would go that route. Our goal is to create something that's super fun so that we do have a user base that supports, collaborations like this. Or, pick up, streamers or artists who really enjoy the game who want to be a part of it. We're totally down with that. We wouldn't rule anything out. But I don't think that we're going to collab just for the sake of collabing, right? It's got to come organically.
yeah, definitely. Um, Darnox is asking about a wolf character, and we already have one called Wolfie, or Hachiko, I believe if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, Hachiko.
But I suppose to follow that, are there going to be any characters that are not humanoid? Are there going to be any animal-based characters, maybe?
Yes,
Probably.
maybe.
So we have I mean it's too early to talk about a lot of that stuff, but yes, Hachiko is like a wolf girl, right? And she's been showcased for quite a long time now. We have a new character mesh for her. There's lore, there's voice lines. Like she is part of those core 14 that I mentioned at earlier in the stream. So yeah, she has some mechanics that we can't quite talk about yet, but they do revolve around having wolves and stuff like that. So.
And I'm being pointed out at my knowledge of Willy Punch existing. I don't
Willie's not a wolf though, he's a cat.
know.
Right, but he's not human, is one part of that question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
So the answer is yes. We're going to have non-human characters. Not everybody's a human. Some of them are part human.
There's a pig man.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. We
Can we
have the
get John
pig.
Mulvaney to voice him though, so it's just like Into the Spider-Verse? That would be awesome.
He Tusk actually has an amazing voice actor.
Yeah,
If you hear any of his stuff, it's super good.
cool.
Daniel Dorse, I believe his name is.
Yeah, we have lots of really good voice actors. We've got a lot of that goes up on our Twitter at the moment with Nikki going through and getting them
Yeah.
all sorted out. So it's really cool to see that. Donuts asks how are we going to do SBMM. A lot of games have really bad SBMM.
Yeah, so he's talking about skill-based matchmaking. Um, there's a there's a lot of conversations around skill-based matchmaking, right? Uh, a lot of devs use this as a tool to make sure that communities with they have all of their really try hard, competitive, really high performing players sort of separated from the not so good, low skill players, right? And that's sort of a thing that you want to do typically in a ranked match, right? You want to make sure that skills are sort of matched up fairly evenly so that the match is competitive and fun. It's not a constant stomp. But when you're playing in a more social environment, skill-based matchmaking has been criticized for making those games super try hard and super sweaty. They're not actually social. So I think what we would want to do is just be a bit more relaxed on what that net looks like when it's a competitive match. It's in ranked, on a ranked style mode. You want that skill gap to be pretty tight. Um, but we should probably widen that gap pretty significantly when we go to social. That doesn't mean that there shouldn't be really high performing players with really low. It just means that um, you don't want to be forcing these games to be super competitive in a social engagement. You want them to be much more laid back, much more friendly, um, and that's sort of, I think, what this question is leaning into.
Well, I believe you
Yeah,
answered. Uh,
it's too hard to tell, too, right? I mean, skill-based matchmaking really relies on a large active user base as well, right? And so let's create a fun game and get a large user base, and then we can worry about it.
I think Donox is happy with the answer. um, but yeah, okay. I don't really see any other questions coming through our
Okay.
actual Twitch chat. We've gone on a lot longer than we originally planned, which is really good,
Yeah.
and great. And so it's been amazing having all of you guys here to join us. Are we going to be moving over to Discord? Is that our plan still? We're going to be heading over there, or have we run on
Sure.
for?
Yeah, I can hang out for another 20 minutes or so
Yeah. Why don't we go over to
in the
Discord? If
Discord.
anybody else has any questions, they can ask there, and you know, people can come back and watch a stream. Obviously, thank you to the guys who showed up today, and thank you to everybody who watches this, on recording. I know that I almost never make live streams myself. I always end up watching them 2 days later on YouTube or wherever. So thank you to everybody who's tuning in, because you're great. You're the reason why we make games.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. We'll put this on. We'll put the VOD of this on YouTube so that you guys can have access to it or share it with your friends. We'll be putting it out on various social medias and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, if you want to join us and ask us questions live, we're gonna jump into our Discord in one of the voice channels, and we'll see you guys over there if you want to chat.
All right. Thanks to everyone. It's been a really good stream.
All right.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you,
Thanks,
Joe.
everyone. Yeah, my pleasure.
Thanks,
Been
guys.
great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Cheers.
Bye.